All right, so here's today's Canes update. Did Martin Necas really turn down contract extension offers with both Buffalo and Winnipeg? These are kind of rumors out there. I don't know that there's any validity to that. But we did find out at the draft that the Hurricanes had a deal with Columbus for the 4th overall pick, plus maybe something else. But it fell apart because Necas wouldn't agree to a contract extension in Columbus. So the Blue Jackets weren't going to do that and potentially have Necas for just 1 year. They weren't going to do that, which I don't blame them a bit. Although you control his rights for 2 years because he has 2 more years of restricted free agency before he can go where he wants. Anyway, so would this be a third team that now Necas has said, nah, I'm not signing a contract extension? So as I'm thinking about this, there are many, many ways to look at this. Is it good or is it bad for Carolina? Because there are people out there, oh man, Marty's exerting leverage. He doesn't want to play ball with anybody. He doesn't. This might be good for Carolina because it's possible that he might look at this as the best opportunity for him to rebuild his value, which I would point out that would be the correct way of looking at it. It's not like Necas, even playing this suffocating restricted style that he's playing.
Of course.
Not at all. But I would point out, what do you have, 71 points 2 years ago?
72, I believe.
Right? 53 last year, whatever it is, right? He's basically about 0.75 points a game the last 2 years. Well, if you were to do that for a third and a fourth year and be around a 60 to 65 point per year player, well, that would put you in line to probably make between $6.5 and $7 million a year as a free agent. Then you throw in the physical tools that he's got, the skating ability, the size, right? His age. He's 25, right?
Prime years ahead of him.
So if I were Necas, I wouldn't sign a long-term contract with anybody. Nobody. I wouldn't sign a long-term contract right now with Carolina. If the Hurricanes came at him with 8 years and $6 million, I'd say, nah, not really. Because here's what we know about Necas. And this is why, from the very beginning of, well, they're going to trade Necas, I'm like, yeah, I still think they want to keep him. Now, I did think that they were never going to keep Gensel and Necas. It was going to be one or the other. So, but I never thought that they were ultimately going to re-sign Jake Gensel. Everybody who's listened to me talk about it has heard me say that. But it became apparent before the draft and at the draft that they were trying to re-sign Gensel. They did a poor job of that because they didn't get him, but they were trying. And at that point, they had pivoted to not only trading Necas, but likely trading Necas really for futures. If you were going to bring Gensel back, you were going to let Necas walk, and you didn't need NHL return. You needed high draft picks, prospects. You were going to need futures because, as we know about the Hurricanes' salary cap situation right now, they don't have a lot of room to add.
No, they don't.
So you couldn't have Gensel at 8 or even the fantasy of 7.5 and Necas and Jarvis and Drury. Somebody was going to have to go unless you were going to make two very difficult choices, which they still could, which would be moving on Yevgeny Kuznetsov and probably buying out Jesperi Kotkaniemi. And even then, you're probably not able to do all four of those players. So you were going to have to find some cost-cutting somewhere. But that's a tangent. So when they didn't get Gensel, to me, the best move for them wasn't to trade Necas, but to work with him and get him playing the type of hockey he can play, at least for 2 years. And ultimately, here's where I think it's going to end up with Martin Necas, in that he's going to sign. I don't think we'll get to arbitration. I think the organization still likes him. Have they tried to move him? Yeah, but he was not like being actively shopped. He was a piece that would have been necessary in a couple of failed trades, or maybe 3, right? Maybe Matthew Tkachuk, maybe Timo Meier, maybe
Elias Pettersson.
All 3 of those potential trades likely would have sent Necas the other way, right? So, and maybe he's put off by that. I would be too, but the other way to look at it is, did that team want me? There are 2 ways to look at a trade. One team wants to move you, and the other team wants to bring you in. And I ultimately think it's business. Necas gets it. But the best thing for his career is to stay here and thrive here and then have control over where he goes. 2 years, whatever the number is. 11? Right? 2 years at 11.
Could just be 1 year.
Yeah, but then we're in the same position again next year.
He should be unrestricted next year, right?
No, it's got 2 years of RFA.
2 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the the cap-friendly website is no longer.
Well, yeah, using Puckpedia.
I am almost positive that he's got 2 more years. Either way, right? So if it's a 1-year deal, whatever, this is the best place to rebuild his value. And if you're Necas, that's what you do. You rebuild your value there. Here, rather. And I think that the way he fits, he's got friends on this team. He's got familiarity with the team. I know the head coach wants more of him, but I think the head coach likes him. I think that Marty always has wanted to play center. And you know what? I always wanted to be 6'3". It's not going to happen for me. And it's probably not going to happen for Necas. He hasn't demonstrated the defensive ability to play, but here's what, because I think all athletes thrive on responsibility, okay? All athletes thrive on it. A couple of years ago, Necas was part of the penalty kill. He enjoyed it. He liked it. Last year, he wasn't. There were a couple of moments where he was involved in the penalty kill last year, but with Teuvo Teravainen gone, does that open up an opportunity? And by the way, we don't know what Jesper Fast's health issue is. That could be a long-term injury.
Major question mark.
It could be a retirement because it's
which would suck.
On so many levels. Would also make it even more important that they brought back Jordan Martinook, by the way. But if you lose 2 penalty killers off last year's team, does that open the door for Necas to come back into that unit? One of the things that Rod Brind'Amour loves about using his top offensive players, if you are a great skater, you have the raw ability to be a good penalty killer. Mm-hmm. I don't think Necas was one of their best penalty killers a couple of years ago, but he wasn't incompetent at it. And there's another way to build your value and by the way, create opportunity for yourself. And we are relying upon you. Everybody wants to feel like they are necessary. And I think that would be a huge thing for Martin Necas.
We saw a couple years ago when Sebastian Aho started getting some penalty killing time, and all of a sudden his offensive numbers went up too, just because he was on the ice. He wasn't sitting on the bench for 2 minutes straight, and he was getting opportunities shorthanded. He and Teuvo Teravainen together.
They both showed up on the penalty kill in the same game.
Exactly.
Right? For the first time, and it was Whalers night.
Yep.
That first year, I think it was against Boston, and they combined for 2 shorthanded goals. Mm-hmm. And where has this been?
Exactly.
Right. So, yeah, I do think that it's something, I think it's something we are going to see very, very soon. Hopefully it'll happen for Necas, and I hope it happens here. I think it will happen here. And here's the other thing, and this will be the last thing I'll say about this, other than to plug something. For Marty Necas to get the most out of his ability, he can't try to take the easy way out. The easy way out is just playing an assistant that lets him do what he wants, right? But that's not the easy way out. You want to play on a winning team. Everybody wants to win. Well, there are parameters around that. We'll just use the term guardrails for that. And I think Necas, and I think he does accept it. I just think that he's been frustrated probably by losing some opportunity. I also think, and this is no fault of anybody's, keep this in mind with Necas. He played 4 years on an entry-level deal. Because the Hurricanes were allowed to slide his contract by a year.
Yeah.
The first year he was here, he played the first 7 games here in 18-19, and then went to the minor leagues and spent the entire year in the AHL. He wasn't part of the team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals the first year, right? That year did not count in his entry-level deal. He played the next 3 years on an entry-level contract. I'm not blaming anybody. Those were the rules. The Hurricanes didn't have to, even if they extended him, he still had to play the extra year. So he spent 4 years on an entry-level contract, one of those at the AHL level. So financially speaking, he's a year behind. He signed the 2-year, $3 million a year contract, right? So entry-level, yeah, I think he's got 2 more years of entry-level, of team control before he is off on the free agent, unrestricted free agent market. So we'll see how it plays out, but I think ultimately Martin Necas will stay here. And here's my plug. Tonight, Canes Corner podcast, live on YouTube, about 10 o'clock. We're going to dig into the prospects, and maybe there's a prospect or two that can make this team right here. I don't know. There's a lot of love for Bradley Nadeau. We found out yesterday that Felix Unger-Sorum is going to spend this year in North America.
I went to prospect camp yesterday. Those two look good.
Yeah. So, and I know there's some defenders that skate really well.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see what's up, but we're gonna dig into the prospects tonight on the Canes Corner podcast, live on YouTube, right around 10 o'clock.